The Arkansas Municipal League, we basically were formed in 1934 for the purpose of being an advocate for cities and towns before the state of Arkansas and presenting a collective voice on behalf of cities and towns. We continue to play that role today. We also do a lot of things in the area of training of city officials, publications for city officials, do a lot of risk management programs, health care, workers' comp, vehicles, property, liability, all those kinds of things. This is our annual convention. We elect new officers for the forthcoming year, adopt our set of policies and goals to guide the organization over the next 12 months.
One thing we get, you get new ideas. You talk to different mayors from different cities, and I mean, I've always been one to say that, you know, all ideas are not found in one person. And so therefore you can get out, mix and mingle, brainstorm. You get new ideas that you can take back and use in your city. You can find out where funding is, where grants are available, and all these things are important, especially for a small town.
I can remember when I first became the mayor, I had little experience, and there were a lot of guys here who had a lot of experience that I learned from. Now, I'm in year 20, and I'm one of those guys that has a lot of experience, and I can help newly elected people. And the thing about it is, though, anytime you have an issue, and I was told this in the very beginning, if I had a question to ask me when I first got elected, call the Municipal League. And I would call. And I'd either talk to an attorney, or I'd talk to Don Zimmerman, or I'd talk to whoever would answer the phone and get some answers for things that I needed to know.
The best thing that you can get is a networking of all the other mayors. You can get information from them that you can take back home. You can glean the information from the meetings here, take that back home, and then you can have something that you can present to your people that can be positive because it was positive in other cities.
The city of Maumelle for several years was with private health insurance companies, and a few years back we went with the league with their program to provide the health insurance benefit. And because of that, we've not had an increase in our health insurance costs in the time that we've been with the league. And so it's been very beneficial to us. We actually saved money when we went to the league, and we're continuing to save money because everybody I talk to that's still with a private health provider, insurance-wise, is their rates are going up still based on today. And so we're part of the liability insurance for our property and for our vehicles, and it has helped us tremendously to cut costs in that aspect also when we can insure our vehicles and our property through the league's programs.
My message today is on reinventing your leadership. These are challenging economic times, they're challenging political times, and I think all leaders need to reinvent the way they do leadership within their municipal arena and with the public as well. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how to work with different types of personalities, different types of people, how to create more unity, and how to go forward stronger and better in the future for the benefit of all the citizens of Arkansas. I want us to be able to leave here today with an idea of how to bring our people together in our municipality. There's a famous saying that there's an Anglican bishop over in England, and on his tombstone, over in England, there are these long things on tombstones. And on his tombstone, he has a statement, when I was a young man, I wanted to change the world. But as I grew older, I wanted to change my country. As I got much older, I decided I couldn't change my country, so I wanted to change my community. Then I tried to change my family. Now at the hour of my death, I've realized that if I changed myself, that would have changed my family, which would have changed my community, which would have changed my country, which would have changed the world. Each of you in here can make change. You can make things happen by what you do inside of you and how it bleeds over to other people. More peaceful revolutions have taken place in history because somebody stood up and changed themselves, and they changed everybody around them.
My job, though, and the person that I'm really anxious to hear from next is our good friend, the Speaker of the House. When Jeremy Gillum came to the Arkansas legislature, he was a young man in 2011 that I first met when he, and he's still a young man, but he was a very young man then compared to me. And so I immediately liked him. He served on the city-county committee. I was covering that committee that session. And we got to be friends, and he did some good work for us, and I thought he was a potential leader of the Arkansas House of Representatives. I had no idea that he was going to be elected Speaker of the House twice and become one of only 5 citizens in the history of Arkansas that has served as Speaker of the House twice. He did it in the 2015 session and again in the 2017 session. Has another year and a half to go on this current speakership. But he has been a great leader for Arkansas. He's always been very wise in the way he's dealt with legislation, the way he's assigned members to various committees, the way he's assigned bills to committees. Done a terrific job in the House of Representatives and been a real friend of cities and towns. So it's my pleasure to introduce him, and let's give a real warm Municipal League welcome to our Speaker of the House, Jeremy Gillen.
3 key elements that we're at as we move forward that's going to allow us for success in moving up to the next level here in the state and being able to solve some of these problems and challenges that we have the opportunity to face now. First is going to be engagement. And I think you're off to a great start in that area when it comes to the internet collections issue. Getting involved, talking to your legislators, one-on-one is going to do a great bit of good and get them to understand that the message that we're actually sending right now is that we'd actually prefer you to set up your company in Texas or Oklahoma and just ship it over here. We don't really want you here on our main streets. But it's going to be more than just your engagement as city leaders. It's going to be rallying the community to engage and talk to those legislators as well. I'm going to let you in a little secret. We really, really hate it when a couple hundred people call us over a weekend wanting us to do something in session. And we really don't like it when you catch us out of session to do that. So that engagement and being able to talk to your community, rally that support, to engage with the members and get them to see that it matters to your community is, I think, what's going to get us over the hump in that particular area. And I think the same thing with highways and a lot of other issues that we face as a state. And then another thing that I think that we've reached a point here in the state that I see right now that we've got a chance to seize, and that is really a chance to step up and have a moment of leadership in a lot of these areas. As I've gone around the state over the last couple of years, one thing has become clear to me. The citizens of this state really don't want more politicians. What they're looking for right now out of all of us are statesmen and stateswomen to solve these problems. There's been so many of these issues that have persisted and have been elusive for too long, and they're crying out for us to be able to step up and solve these. And so I think as we move forward, your support to the state legislators and showing them that you agree with that sentiment, that solving these problems are more important than worrying about the re-election campaigns and pushing these things back down to where it's maybe more convenient for individuals is going to be key as we move this state forward over the next few years. And we've got a tremendous opportunity that's before us. Because of the modification of term limits back a couple of years ago, we have a chance for us to have some continuity in our state legislative leaders. We've got a chance to not have to rehash and refight the same battles every 2 years, but to actually solve some of these problems. But it's going to take your support for us to be able, I think, to overcome the political calculus that we face in today's day and age. We've seen over the last really 2-3 years, the civil discourse in our state and especially in the engagement with our elected officials start to deteriorate. I think it's time that we take that back in the direction that we know it should be and that we lead in that regard and how we interact with each other. One of the things that I have been most proud about in my service in the State House has been, people might not have always liked everything we've done, but they've been proud of how we've done it. We've conducted ourselves in a professional and civil manner, to the point that the National Conference of State Legislators just recently finished and conducted a study of state houses across, and state Senate chambers as well, across the United States. And we ranked as the most civil and least polarized House in the Union in that study. And I think that's something we should be proud of. And so as we move forward over the next great adventure that we have in a myriad of opportunities to solve problems here in the state, we do so in partnership with you. I want you to know that on behalf of the House of Representatives that we value the role that you play in this great state. We know that above all else, that your motto, that great cities are what make us great, is true. And it's not just one great city, despite a few of my colleagues and their continued challenge to me that their city is what makes this state great. We know that all of us working together that's what's going to make us successful in this state. It has been, as I said, my great honor professionally to be able to serve in the House of Representatives and to be able to serve as the Speaker of the House, to be able to interact with each of you to solve our problems in this state. And I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. And if there's anything that we can do in the House, please do not hesitate to contact us because we are definitely in this with you. So thank you very much for having me tonight. The grassroots, starting at the local level, gives us a sense and a pulse of where the constituency's at, and really the local level and the municipalities and the city council, men and women, the mayors, you know, they're dealing with the issues first on the front line. They're seeing what the impact is on the day-to-day life that sometimes we only see the 10,000-foot view at the state level. And so without that partnership, without that relationship with the local governments, we would, I think, make a lot of mistakes and miss a take and get the analysis wrong on a lot of the issues that we have to deal with.
Our person of the year is a man who gets things done. He has served in both House and Senate. He currently chairs the Tax Reform Task Force. In the last few years, he has successfully chaired 2 committees, one dealing with health care reform and one dealing with state employees and teachers' health insurance. During the 2017 legislative session, our person of the year sponsored the League's bill to implement Constitutional Amendment 97. This new legislation will result in increased economic development for our cities, while at the same time ensuring that municipal funds are spent appropriately. This year's person of the year is a former fighter pilot who currently serves as the majority leader of the Senate. In addition to his service as majority leader, our person of the year is a good friend to the municipalities of Arkansas. Please help me welcome and congratulate Senator Jim Hendren, who is this year's Arkansas Municipal League Person of the Year. Senator, would you please come forward and receive a token of our appreciation?
I won't take much of your time. You've heard a lot. There's a lot of better speakers here than me. I just want to thank the Municipal League for the award. I want to tell you how much I've enjoyed working with Don and Mark over the years. We have come a long way. I was visiting with Mark beforehand, and he was talking about the planning meetings you have for the legislative session every time. We've developed a great working relationship. I've enjoyed it. I cannot tell you how much pride we all take in the great work that cities and municipalities do across the state. Thank you so much for this honor. I can promise you when Don and I were working together back in the House 20 years ago, I never would have imagined this would happen. So we have come a long way. Thank you all.
We truly hope that you will enjoy it, and it'll be the best convention that you've ever attended.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to see you here, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, here in our wonderful capital city. I hope you've had a good time already. Seeing all the new things that are happening in our city. For those of you who've had a chance to stroll down our main street, you continue to see the renaissance, the redevelopment of what used to be the most busiest street in the state, and I'm happy to tell you that it is returning to that type of environment. A wonderful opportunity to get together with friends and to talk and to converse and engage in those wonderful things about quality of life that we all know.
Would everyone please stand? If you've been on a boat of any kind, such as a cruise ship, sailboat, naval vessel, canoe, anything that floats, including the inner tube, remain standing. Everyone else, please sit down. If you've stayed all night on a boat, remain standing. If you spent the night on a boat, remain standing. If you've spent more than a week on a boat, remain standing. Everyone else sit down. I love this. If you spent 9 months at sea, racing 27,000 miles around the world solo via the Southern Ocean with a notorious storm in a vessel you built yourself, remain standing.
Nobody else? We have work to do in our cities and our communities. Work in education, work in infrastructure. But only together, irrespective of what our differences are, irrespective of our culture, irrespective of our sex, we have to work together to make things happen. As I travel around the world, I discover people are all the same. We need fresh air, fresh clean air. We need clean water. We need shelter. We need love. But we need communication. We need tolerance. We need respect. We need understanding. And I truly believe that what we hold near and dear as our values, so do others in the world. We've got to combine those values and have the dialogue and restore hope to what is possible. If I could take a boat, a small boat that I built myself against the odds of the furthest corners of the world, what can't we do as we choose, whether we shall choose the treasures or choose the baggage? But when we believe that in life there are no barriers, there are only solutions, we can do anything. So I challenge you, please keep doing what you're doing, keep being civil, keep impacting lives, because we will have a better world, because all of us together. Thank you so much for having me in Little Rock.
My message to local government is to work together and never to give up. We are dealing with big issues. Everybody is facing budget issues, population issues, but it's to find a way of how do we reach across the aisle, how do we bring people together, and how do we serve the constituents. This is a group of elected officials who are here to make a difference, to serve their community.
We have questions that I'm sure are going to arise from HUD's budget that's coming out, specifically the fact that currently the proposed budget does not include CDBG or home funds, but HUD's $40 billion 2018 budget does pose some challenges. We've already heard that from Secretary Carson, but I believe that we are prepared to meet those challenges. Currently, there are almost $3 billion in home funds to be dispersed from prior years, and that obligation will continue. There are no plans to change programs that have already been granted, and we will continue to administer home requirements such as the 20-year affordable loan program. With CDBG, many of our cities are involved with Section 108 loan guarantees. We've got over 700 active 108s nationally. And in our budget proposal, we will continue to manage those programs. But we cannot, and we must not, lose the fact that we have to be compassionate and fiscally responsible with programs that show results. And while CDBG did do some good, it's also full of inefficiencies. And they cost all of us as taxpayers. They cost us money, they cost us time, and they cost us human resources. And one example, when I was mayor in Irving, we accepted a grant. We accepted a CDBG grant. But part of accepting that grant meant that we had to create a department. We had to hire 11 people in that department in order to fulfill the HUD requirements in order to receive the grant. So we were paying 11 salaries. And when that grant was spent, we were left with 11 employees. And the reason why we had to have so many was because there were so many requirements and there were so many regulations. And wouldn't you rather see that money go toward the programs as opposed to the overhead? And we make it so entirely complex that I really do believe that we can change. We have to change. Secretary Carson has been very clear that we need to stop looking at our success based on the number of individuals that would get into public housing and instead concentrate on how to get those individuals out of public housing. Specifically, how to look at the integration of communities where they have access to jobs, healthcare, retail, schools, job training, and really believes that if we can get people jobs where they're being fulfilled and they can start creating wealth, that you can get them out of public housing. And in the end, I think that's what we all want, is an opportunity to succeed. And that is, it's going to take some time. We've looked at programs in the past and how they have worked. And quite frankly, we've had a lot of programs that are not working. You know, they continue to create these low-income areas, and what at the end of the day is we all want to be able to have communities that are flourishing and everybody to have an opportunity to succeed.
I used to work for our governor, Mike Huckabee, who served our state for 10.5 years as governor. And if you ever had the opportunity to walk into Mike Huckabee's office, or perhaps now if you see Governor Huckabee being interviewed on TV, you will notice, even at his home office, there's a sign behind him that says, "Come, let us reason together." Let's all think about that and act on that as leaders in our communities. Come, let us reason together. Now more than ever, we must encourage civil discourse among our constituents, among our friends, among those we disagree with. I'm sure that every mayor's office has had someone show up upset about what's going on in the city. I'm sure every city council meeting has had someone show up upset about what's going on. And so at times such as those, it's important that we stop and reason together. And not just in person. Let's look at no further than our own Facebook pages and how we speak to one another and how our constituents and friends speak to one another. Let's encourage more civil discourse and conversation among those, and let's tamp down that vitriolic rhetoric.
When Arkansas passed legalized marijuana, one thing that we didn't really realize, the voters didn't really realize, how many warts were actually on the amendment that we needed to get fixed. So what we did was we spent a lot of time listening to the mayors, listening to the county judges, trying to really determine if the what we have is adequate or not. So what we did was going out and presenting to obviously our work and our presentation over the last several months has paid off because we have 22 bills that were passed to fix a lot of their concerns. So Arkansas is one of those states that is in the South. Obviously, we're one of the first states that have legalized it in the South. Our neighbors have never legalized it. So this is a new challenge that we're going to be dealing with when we're dealing with not only using it as medicine, but also using it as preventing the diversion to additional states, like we saw in Colorado and like we saw in California and in the past. So
we've got one industry in our city, very important industry in our city, not poultry, if that's what you're thinking, but actually it's in our technology park, and they would get calls weekly from Rick Perry, the governor of Texas at the time, trying to recruit them to Texas. And we really didn't have much to offer. AEDC was doing all they could to help. And had it not been just for this company's loyalty to Arkansas, they'd be in Texas right now because we could not compete with the public incentives that Texas was throwing at them. So we believed that Arkansas really stood at a disadvantage. And before I go any further, this law, as it's passed, I don't know if Springdale will ever use it. I'm not sure it's really going to fit us. We may not try and take advantage of it at some point, but we believe the state as a whole and your cities, it's given us a tool that we didn't have before.
I wanted everybody to understand how hard the staff and several other agencies and groups worked to come up with a piece of legislation that I think is very helpful for Arkansas's economy and particularly for cities and towns. Amendment 97 gave us some authority to spend money that we've never had before, and the legislation that we've put into place puts some safeguards, due diligence, and provides sort of a good roadmap for our local governments to proceed in spending those monies on projects and on economic development services.
It's going to give cities a lot of new opportunity to be more competitive as they seek to recruit new industry, to do economic development projects that they just have not had the financial tools available. So the voters approved it. It was up to the legislature to implement it, and this was the framework and the guideposts by which cities now can go forward and do some responsible management of some exciting economic development projects.
Amendment 97 and the implementing legislation allows municipalities to spend money on economic development projects and economic development services. Those things were never allowed before and specifically had been ruled by a court to be unconstitutional in a case out of Little Rock and North Little Rock involving their chambers of commerce. So Amendment 97 was driven to try to correct that, to allow local governments to enter into these kinds of projects and services in order to better their communities, bring in more jobs, make them more economically viable.
Give us an example of how this will work.
Well, the easiest thing would be a chamber contract. It now officially we're allowed to engage in that kind of economic development service. A city could engage a contract with a chamber or a like entity to do a specific set of things. The statutes now require some very specific contractual items be contained in there, including measurable things to ensure that whatever the contract is for is actually getting done. For projects, it would be the same kind of concept, another contract, and the ability to get money back if the project doesn't go forward as it had been planned.
Financing, infrastructure, public safety, those are big issues. One of the key bills that pertains to that we haven't been able to obtain success with yet is the question of having a marketplace fairness situation where the internet providers collect the sales tax just like the brick and mortar stores do. That would help the cities, that would help the counties, the state of Arkansas, as well as particularly the local merchants who would be at a fair competitive situation with the out-of-state vendors.
As you know, and as Don has mentioned, as the mayor knows, a few things were left unfinished in the last legislative session. One of them is the issue of tax fairness. And this is where we have our downtown merchants at a disadvantage with the online merchants far away in some other state that is marketing to the people of Arkansas, and people are going in and buying that product online instead of from our downtown merchant. They're not doing it because they don't like our downtown merchant. They might actually go in there and get an idea as to what they need, and then they'll go online and buy it. And so all we say is that there ought to be tax fairness, a fairness in our tax system that equally treats merchants that are selling retail and merchants that are selling online. It is about fairness, but I know that that's important to you. And the opportunity that you have ahead is to work with the legislatively created task force for tax reform. I just believe that whether it's a retail store that's a brick and mortar store or whether it's purchase online, there should be some fairness between the means of purchase. That's common sense, and I hope that we can continue to move toward that tax fairness.
Especially important for small cities and towns to work together like Mulberry is, because you know, as we work together to promote issues that affect us, we have a bigger voice, just like this internet tax. You know, the internet tax is so vitally important to cities the size of Mulberry, because if we lose retail, then we need to pick that up, because people still expect us to hire policemen, they still expect us to have fire department, but how are we going to pay for police departments and fire departments when our taxes go down? And so the internet tax will help us tremendously, and as we band together, then we'll be able to have a bigger voice going forward to the legislature, and this helps us out tremendously. So that's the reason that we like to band together as one voice.
If it was applied across the board to all internet sales, I know that the city of Lake Village, a small city, we would benefit. Our Parks and Recreation program would benefit greatly from that. Our bare bones necessities for our citizens, police, fire, street, all types of infrastructure would greatly benefit.
We have people that, they're using the brick and mortar, businesses as the showroom and then going and purchasing online. So, that's huge right now.
Our city uses sales tax in the general fund to support the police and fire departments. Without the sales tax, we would not be able to function because it's the lifeblood of any city, sales tax in Arkansas.
Well, the state legislature tried to address it in this last session. The Senate had passed a bill, the House had passed a bill, but neither House passed the other House's bill. So while that was going on, Amazon came forth and said that we'll start collecting voluntarily on some of our purchases on March the 1st. And so they did. And this last month, toward the end of May, the cities received their checks from their local sales taxes. And on average, they were up 7.2%. As a result, and the only thing I can figure it's a result of Amazon coming into the tax base.
What kind of an impact does it have for local government?
Well, it's their primary source of funding for their public safety projects, their infrastructure, and operating their cities. So it's huge. Local sales tax in Arkansas is the bread and butter for cities and towns.
Sales tax is the lifeblood of cities, and that's how we provide services for our residents, and it's vitally important that those online sales taxes are collected. They're due, and it's vitally important that they're collected. It's good for the state, it's good for cities, and it's good for us as stewards of tax money to be able to provide those services to our residents that they need and deserve.
Our sales tax are up 14%. May of this year compared to May of last year. And of course, with that increase, we'll be able to do additional programs in our parks and recreation because we also use sales tax for capital improvement dollars and in public safety.
I noticed last month for the month of May that my remittance was probably 11% more than it had been in the past. I called Don Zimmerman to make sure that something wasn't wrong, and he said that was pretty well happening around the state. It's a big benefit to win. We've had an extra $0.50 on our sales tax above the state sales tax, so it can mean possibly $200,000 to our small town, and that's a good part of our budget. Sales tax is one of the biggest components of our budget, so it means the world to us to have this money remitted.
It was unexpected, but it was greatly received, and it was something that really, again, helped our cities with the tax dollars that, of course, that we use to, to help our cities and help the growth of our city. So, but it was very unexpected at that point. We really didn't expect it at the time, but after seeing it and receiving information from our chief finance officer about it coming in, and so it was very good, and I think it could really help communities like ours and other communities to do better with investing in our infrastructure.
The biggest thing we have in our town of Greenwood is infrastructure, trying to keep up with the population growth. We're predicted to be 25,000 people by the year 2040, so we're just trying to keep up and make sure we're ready for the future.
When a company wants to come into a community, basically what they do is they look at four things. They look at your crime rate, they look at your fire rating, they look at your school system, your education system, and they look at your medical system in your community. And if you don't have those four things in pretty good shape, then there's a chance that they won't come into your city.
The Amazon sales tax has actually increased our revenue for the month of May, which are the March collections, by $40,000. This is extremely important to Bella Vista. We are a residential community, and we're trying very hard to bring in more economic development to increase the tax base, but that takes time. And in the meantime, I still have 550 miles of roads, which is more roads than the city of Little Rock, to keep under repair. Plus, we're also looking at purchasing a possible water system. We need to completely refurbish one of our fire stations and the police station. So there's a lot of infrastructure that has to be fixed and repaired. We're looking at possibly floating long-term bonds. If we are able to have all of the internet sales tax, not just Amazon, that would greatly decrease our dependence on going into debt, and we would be able to do all these infrastructure improvements much faster and much more efficiently.
This is the first month that we've really seen any of the Amazon sales tax come in, but there was quite a bit of a spike. I think our sales tax was about 9% for March, which is very, very good.
What does that mean for a town like Fayetteville?
Well, that means for that month we're over probably $1 million in sales tax revenue, so that's really, really good. So, of course, you figure your budget's on all that, but I see the Amazon sales tax is going to be a big benefit for us.
The Amazon tax rebate this month with us was up more than 8% for the City of Hope. We are very pleased with that. That's an increase that we haven't seen since way before 2008. So we think it's going to be very helpful to our community and will help us compete with other cities around the state and with other states outside.
What would a permanent solution from the legislature mean?
It would mean for us the fact that we would be able to do more infrastructure improvements within our community. We would be able to do a lot more around our community in a lot of ways, our parks program, our law enforcement programs, and it would also keep our local citizens from having to just always take the local burden of tax increases when these are taxes that are supposed to be paid already.
The internet tax is something that affects all of us in the state. All our municipalities rely on sales tax to fund police, fire, roads, streets, parks, basic city services. And with Amazon allowing them to start collect sales tax, we will start seeing some better services in every city. With that, other retailers, other internet's got to get on board, and that will help other cities, help us have roads, help us have streetlights, help us have more police, more fire, basic city services. But without the internet tax, it will cause us more grief in the future.
I guess with every city, it's the economy. We've lost the alcohol sales. Everybody's selling alcohol now. So our sales tax is way down. We are economically challenged. We have the lowest property taxes in the area, but we do need this tax on internet sales to go through. This is important because, as we learned, several $1 million came back just from Amazon. I'm learning a great deal about the needs of Arkansas cities from coming to these municipal meetings. And we all pretty much share the same problems, and it's going to take all of us working together to get these problems solved.
We left unfinished the long-term highway funding. As you'll remember last year, we had a special task force working group on highways that said we needed $400 million more in highway improvements in Arkansas. We addressed it in a short-term fix with the Arkansas Highway Improvement Plan in a special session last year that raised $200 million, which was really $50 million more of our Arkansas revenue combined with what we get from the federal government, addresses a significant portion of that need, but we recognize there needs to be a long-term funding solution for our highways that looks further down, that gives us the money for an overlay program for some of the farm-to-market routes that are so important, that continues the investment in highways. And while that was not completed, we asked for a ballot initiative to be referred to the people for a vote. That was not done in the legislative session. I do hope that this long-term highway plan will have the support of the Municipal League, will have support of our communities, our counties, our cities across the state, and the public, so that it will be on the ballot in 2018. Now, that's something that the voters, particularly if there's going to be a tax increase, they ought to have the right to vote on that in a general election. I support that. Of course, the devil is in the details as to what that highway plan would mean. And your voice is important again in that, and I know that will be constructed. I would like to see it as close as possible to that which was presented to the legislature, and as a referral to the people, let's now see if we can get the initiated support to put that on the ballot in 2018. I do believe it's important to maintain the partnership that we have with the cities and counties for the revenues that come in, and that's important, I know, to your street development in your community.
Well, when you look across the state of Arkansas, you'll find a lot of communities that's in Arkansas, small towns, and the revenue is not enough in order for them to maintain all of their streets or do any kind of projects. And so we've opened up lots of grant money for all over the state. People can apply for that so they can improve their cities based on money that we receive from the state now. The state passed a half-cent sales tax about 5 years ago for the Arkansas Highway and Transportation Department, and out of that is when they created the State 8 Street Committee so that we could help communities and we don't look at the size of them. If Little Rock needs something, they can apply for it, or if a town that's got 90 people in can apply for it. And what we do as a committee, we look at every single project, and they are sent to us on a Monday on the internet, and we look at every one of them, and then we send them to the Highway Department with our endorsement of it. And then in January we meet and we go over every project that has been requested that year, and then we approve or disapprove the ones that are there.
It's very important because each city is always short on funding to make the improvements to their infrastructure, and they are always looking for another source, and this is a source of revenue to do street overlays and street designs for cities, especially the smaller cities that may not have a large tax base coming in that can pay for that.
For us to be able to maintain the viability as cities in the state of Arkansas, we have to continue to improve our roadway systems, our state highways, and our local streets in our cities. It's important that all of the mayors work together to influence the legislators to do the things that we need to do to help bring about our transportational needs in order to get new work, new business into the state of Arkansas, and obviously into our communities, which is so important to each and every one of us.
Infrastructure is always important. People are happy when they got real good streets, and if we have good water and sewage systems, that's even better. And we can offer folks coming in, those benefits to expand their business or relocate to us.
The introduction of the new officers. This morning we had a slate of new officers to be nominated, and they is named Vice President for the 1st District, Mayor Joe Dillard, Mountain Home. Would you please stand? Vice President, 2nd District, Alderman Debbie Ross, North Little Rock. Mayor Lionel Jordan, Fayetteville, 3rd District. And 4th District VP will be Mayor Jerry Bowen, Lamar. And our first Vice President is Mayor Joe Smith of North Little Rock. I want to thank all you people for agreeing to serve as Vice President. I know you'll do a good job as we head forward into this new year.
When you're honored by your peers, it's very special and very humbling, and I'm excited that they would have the confidence in me to take over this leadership position. So we're excited about helping President Sprouse and making this year special for him, and then training me up for a year after next.
Anything that we can accomplish to better serve our people, and the league is very strong in the programs they have to offer, which make it available to every city in Arkansas, actually. And I just think it working together and not reinventing the wheel, but working with our different cities and with the league, we can make a better Arkansas.
the league does great things right now, and it's like a rising tide lifts all boats, and I kind of see the league as that tide and the cities as the boats. So one of the things is working together regionally and with the cities to accomplish as much as we can.
For one thing, it's very humbling to be chosen to be the Vice President of the 3rd District. I hope I can live up to the great honor that they've bestowed upon me from this league. And I look forward to the challenges. I look forward to advancing our cities and our state, our nation, and the world, because I think we're all working together to do that very thing.
They're a great organization to work with, and I'm hoping to learn a lot. I'm very honored.
Today is bittersweet. I give up the presidency, but move on to another chapter in my life. I don't know where I'm going or what I'm going to do when I get there. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know who holds the future.
There you go. That's right.
And I know if I keep my hand in his hand, there's a brighter day ahead.
That's right.
But all in all, life has been good. I couldn't ask for any better. I couldn't ask for any better group to work with. And I couldn't ask for any better group of people to be with. You know, if someone would have told me 20, 30 years ago that I'd be surrounded by friends and constituents and fellow members that I could lean on, there's no way that I'd know people in all parts of the state, northwest, southwest, and all parts in between. I'd have had to say, no way. It's been a journey, one that I'll never forget, and I hope you won't either. Because if there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road, I'll share your load if you just call me. Remember, call me. Thank you.
Love you, man.
He's the mayor of one of the fastest growing towns in the state of Arkansas. He's a father. He's a grandfather, a husband, and a Christian. And I know he'll be a great president because he's a great friend. I present to you our new Arkansas Municipal League president, Mayor Doug Sprouse of Springdale.
Thank you. As my first act as new president, I want to congratulate all of last year's officers. It was a pleasure to serve with each of you. Thank you for a job well done. There are certain undeniable facts in life, and one of them I think was best put by the late great songwriter Jim Croce. You don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't spit into the wind. You don't pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger. And you don't try and follow Harry Brown as president of the Arkansas Municipal. Harry, I think we first met a few years ago when we were both named district vice presidents. We sat together next to each other at our executive committee meetings, and I can't tell you, and it'll come as no surprise to you, what a joy it has been to get to know this man. He has truly been an outstanding friend and an outstanding president for our league. Well, Harry mentioned I'm a Christian. And as a believer, whatever comes my way and whatever comes your way, we're in next week's TV guide. We're going to be okay. So let's continue. Let's have a great year. Let's work together as we always have. Work with our legislators. Work with this wonderful staff and this wonderful leadership at our league, and have a great year next year for not for us, not for the league, but for the state of Arkansas and the residents of Arkansas that God has somehow placed us in a position to serve. Thank you. Drive home safely and have a wonderful summer. The biggest thing right now, I think without a doubt, I think for cities and counties, is the online sales tax. And if that can happen this year through our legislature, then it would be a tremendous win for cities and counties in the state of Arkansas. It would be a tremendous win for the state. So I think that's going to be high on everyone's priority list, to work with our legislators and try and get that done. It's primarily a matter of fairness. Our brick and mortar stores they're starting at a 10% disadvantage behind our online stores. That when people, when the bread and butter of city finance and providing services are sales taxes, we see brick and mortar stores closing all over the state, and it's not because goods aren't being purchased. It's because goods are being purchased online, and that Amazon's not going to come put out your fire. Amazon's not going to take care of crime when it happens. We need those local dollars, and that's not only so it's not only a revenue issue for the cities, but it's very much a fairness issue to support our local brick and mortar stores and create jobs and keep jobs in our cities.
What does it take to produce a convention of this size?
Well, first of all, it takes teamwork. We've got an outstanding staff that works real well together. We start the production, if you will, or the planning, if you will, of the convention months, weeks and weeks ahead of time. What motivates me is our city officials. They seem to appreciate everything that we do. They are highly motivated to come to the convention, to learn, to visit, to interact with each other, but most of all, to receive additional training and experience that helps them become better city officials.
We've elected new officers. We've adopted our policies and goals for the forthcoming year. We've heard from a lot of our state leaders, our governor, and had a lot of legislators here and other interesting speakers, and had a lot of good training workshops. So we think it's been a successful session.
Fort Smith has benefited. We've entered into the vehicle and property insurance programs, those optional programs, that not only have they saved the city a significant amount of money, they've also are very responsive. And when we had a hailstorm and had a lot of damage, the AML was right there, very responsive, and they were wonderful. We're looking into other optional programs, like workers' compensation, because the large pool and support you get from AML is outstanding. And so we're very happy to be as part of the program, and of course to be active in the league itself. And so we're looking very forward to the winter conference coming to Fort Smith too.
We're striving to have the greatest cities and towns we can possibly have in Arkansas, and our league's motto is great cities make a great state. And so that's what we're trying to do, is to do our part in having the great cities, which will result in having a great state.